Hey, this is Taylor with Top Pick Trading. I want to give you guys a Wednesday chart review. It's Wednesday, May 29th, 2024, and this will be our lesson for the day. So you can see we had this move down. It folded over into a flatter channel, got a break from that, moved sideways, and then we pushed up into this range, and we pretty much stayed there all day. Not too many setups on the primary chart that I saw, a couple maybes, but overall not too many. Second chart had a couple more today. We'll get to that after this one. So let's see, 8 o'clock came right in here. This spiking channel was kind of weird. On the second chart, it was a little more clear. Maybe it's something like this. It's a little odd, but regardless, this is the first push above the EMA right here, so it's probably going to retest that low after such a large downward move through the entire overnight. And we get this second entry short here, but unfortunately, your signal bar is this one here, and it's not any good, so I don't see a setup there. Pushes lower, and we fold over into this small range here. It appears everything has played out. We get this first entry here with a good bar off the EMA, but I just don't see the context really supporting it all that great. Pushes lower here, and we just chop sideways. We get this failed second entry short and second entry long right here. Problem is there's a little congestion there, and it's not bouncing quite at the support area. And lastly, it's right into this midline where you can see we just turned once, twice. If it can get above this bar, it's probably going to trap, but I think given the situation we have, it's a little bit too risky. It does push higher, so it would have worked. We form this uptrend here. Come back to the key entry point on a first entry with a bad bar. It gets a new high, and then we break the trend line, and we get this second entry long here. This one's pretty tempting. I really wish you had a little more room, and I wish the local context was a little bit better. And what I mean by that is I really wish this setup bar here closed into this area, and then the signal bar came down and closed right up here. Where it closed, it looks a little more congestive with how that setup bar backed up, and you're closing kind of into the high of that. So if you took it for a small scalp, it would have worked, but locally, it's just not quite good enough in my opinion. It's close. It's also a triple test, so that helps a little bit as well. This was a major uptrend day. Maybe you take that risk there, but after this big of a move, I think you got to just be a little bit more patient with longs and really just take the best setup. So not going to mark that one. It gets another push up, turns off the resistance, comes up here. I saw a lot of people talking about this trade. I don't like it because if you see, we really don't technically have a new high yet, and this would be the measure move. So you can see we got this uptrend, break, two-legged correction, and then you oftentimes will get two legs to a new high. So there's the first leg, and then the measure move on the second leg takes you here, ends up coming up a tick or two short before it reverses. But given that we broke out the lower side, a lot of the times failed breakouts in the direction that you traded into the range. So you can see we traded up into this range. That's where the support was found. Failed breakouts to the lower side of that will generate a large move in the other direction. So I think taking a higher high here after 4 bullish bars is just too risky, and you can see it would have stopped you out. Pushes lower, bounces a little bit below this previous support. It gets a strong move. Looks like we have like a spike in channel situation. It overshoots that. Comes back to the EMA. Since we got an overshoot and this trend channel down right here, doesn't really have a new low. I think taking anything right in here is too risky. Plus it's congested, so it comes back. You get a higher low, but right into this area where we just turned. Bar's massive anyway, so no trade there. Just kind of chopping sideways, not really much of a bias here. And then we finally do get a bias. It pushes a lot lower, gets a break and new low, pushes back up, and now you would have drawn this range here. You can see we are fighting between this new little support area that it found and the midline area of this range. So you'd be looking to trade range rules in this local little range, and we get a triple test here. Unfortunately, not a good bar on this chart, so no setup. Pushes lower, chop sideways, breaks lower again, right at the support area. Fortunately, the bar is just not all that great. This didn't have the upper wick. I think you could consider that one, but just no setup on this chart. Pushes higher, you get a break, several legs up, and you get this short right here. It's got a little lower wick, but it's right at that resistance. So I think if this broke lower, you could have considered it. Fortunately, because it's so far from the EMA, I know you do have the 4 strong bullish bars, but clearly a range now with a break and several legs up from this. But doesn't tick lower, so no setup there. I think you could consider a lower high, but no tick higher here. It drops lower. Just chop in mid-range. You just really don't want to take anything mid-range like this. You get a good bar here, but it's just kind of no man's land. It is at this previous support area, but I'd be wanting something at the major range support here. It does work. It pushes higher. No setups on the upper side up here. No good bars. Pushes lower. You technically get a failure here, but it really just looks like one leg down. So by that time, it's back in the middle of the range. So I don't think you want to take that. Pushes lower. You get this first entry, do a new low, and it starts finding support just a little bit higher than where I would expect. You can see a lot of the closes are in this area. So you chop sideways here, and you get, it's really could be considered a first entry, but it looks more like 2 legs with this body closing so much lower than this swing. So you get this second entry long, triple test off this little bit higher area, and it does touch the lower area there. I was a little bit concerned. I really thought we would drop down and close in this area and then reverse, but never could get there. So I did mark it aggressive because that bar is great. A little bit concerned of the EMA there too. It's been holding. So it's more aggressive, but with that bar on a range day, it's probably going to work. Really wish it formed a little bit lower though. So that does work, pushes higher, right into 230. So no other setups there. So let's take a look at the second chart with just a different offset on the ticks. You can see we got a couple more trades here, different spots though. So you come in here, would have had this downtrend. The spiking channel is a little bit lower, or a little bit more obvious and a bit steeper on this one than in the other chart. And you get this break above here on a second entry short. I think this one is close to being able to take. I'm going to mark it aggressive. There's a lot of resistance in this area, kind of just in between here and here. It's kind of traveling. It's the first push above the EMA, so it's a little risky going into that EMA, but after such a big move like this, it's probably going to generate a new low. So I think if you wanted to take that risk there, I think it's decent. Wish it would have been a better bar that closed maybe below the EMA even, but it's still a pretty good bar, and there's obviously some resistance in this area. You can see you could consider it a triple test once, twice, and then just barely touch it with that wick, and it shoots lower. So I think that's a decent trade. 8 ticks, not too much risk. It does push lower, folds over into this range, and on here it almost looked like a really shallow downtrend as well. So you can see it's pretty clearly holding here. Maybe a little break right in here, but you get that same setup with a smaller risk bar right here. The failed second entry short, second entry long. Still kind of congested and in no man's land. It's not quite off the support. It's kind of close to this resistance where we've turned. So, and also on this one, you've got this downtrend that's a little more worrisome. So I don't think you want to take that. If you want to take a risk, I get it. It's only 5 ticks. Nice bar, but I just didn't like the spot. So it pushes up. On this chart, the channel looks a bit tighter. It looks like you got the break and new high. Keep in mind, such a big downtrend move. You got to really be particular about what shorts you take. We get this first entry long. It's a little bit congested. You can see lots of wicks starting to stack up in here. It's a good bar, so I get it. But like I said, on this chart, it looks really obvious that you've already got that break and new high, and this upper side's holding quite well, so you wouldn't really want to widen this and try to justify it, in my opinion. I think on this chart, it's obvious that it's a break and new high. So if you took it, I get it. It's a really good bar off support. It is a triple test, but just a bit congested. I'd want a second entry that kind of broke out of the congestion like this one did, but unfortunately the bar's massive. So no setup there. You get a triple test here, but we traded up into this range. By the time this closes, it's already back in the lows. So I just be sitting on my hands waiting through this area, get those 2 legs up. Very congested up here, pushes lower, pushes back higher. You get the spiking channel. It doesn't look like an overshoot on this one, but no good bars anyway. Nothing triggers really. Pushes lower. This like lower high is right into the support, so no trade there. Pushes lower. You get a break and new low. Inside bar, and then the next bar doesn't trigger anyway. If you got a really good bar right here, maybe you could consider, but didn't form. Pushes higher. You start finding resistance off of this midline, like I said earlier. And then you get this triple test here. It is an inside bar, but it made an equal high. It's such a clear triple test here. I like that trade. I took this one myself. Does back up 2 ticks, but I think the context supports it after 3 clear touches. And this move down was pretty strong. At the time, too, you may have had something wider that you think may retest. It's not as clear, but there's a case that there may be something wider here. So with the other context of the range supporting it, that midline holding like that, I like that trade. You get this lower high, but it closes right into the support. If this came back up maybe one more time and closed right in here, let me switch to mouse, then I think you could take like a lower high, but formed really low. Pushes lower, chop sideways, and you get like this little failed break lower from the congestion. Right at the support area. Good bar on this chart. A little bit of congestion there, so that takes away a little bit from it, but still a pretty good bar right at the support area. After now, everything's clearly played out as well. So pretty far from the EMA too. 1.5. So I think that's a pretty good trade there. It would have worked nicely. Pushes higher, chops a couple legs to the extremes again of this range. Unfortunately, this bar right here doesn't tick higher for like an equal high short. So nothing there you can do. You get the lower high, it's massive. Once again, if this pushed a little bit higher and maybe closed in this area, I think you could take the short. But closed right into that EMA, so it's a large risk, 12 ticks. The bars weren't that big today, so I think you got to wait on that one. Does work nicely. Pushes lower, chop sideways, get a higher low, but you're just mid-range here. It's hard to know what's happening. Find support a little bit early here. Very congested, so no setups there. You get a push up. You get this trade, but it's kind of far from that resistance. Clearly, it's a point or two higher. The wick just barely touched it, so got some lower wick on it too. So it's not perfect. I'd wait on that. Pushes lower, pushes back up, chops lower, come down, turn at the EMA. This trade actually is somewhat tempting. You can see tested it once, twice, 3 times, then like a 4th and 5th time here. But by the time it closed, it's just massive. If this closed in here, you could probably take it for a quick scalp back to the midline or a little bit further. But didn't happen, just got massive, so I think it's too risky. It does end up pushing lower. You could have gotten a small scalp. Drops to this lower support, which is what you'd really want to take a trade off of anyway. It chops sideways. Nothing there. Doesn't give a good bar on this chart. Pushes up. It looks like on this chart you get a break and new high. Very, very far from the EMA. 4 points. If this bar was better, I think you could probably take a risk on that, turn in once, twice, 3 times, and then a 4th major, turn off this resistance. But with the bar with that little wick like that, I don't like it. Plus the setup bar's more than twice the size of it, so you need a really good bar here to take this trade, in my opinion. It would have worked, but you don't know that. It comes back to the EMA, tries to retest the upward move, and it sells off into the close. Wow, actually got a really big move down here. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Not many trades today. You can see by doing the 2-chart method, offsetting your ticks, you get a couple more opportunities in areas where you know the context is good, but you may not have gotten a good bar on the primary chart. So hopefully it's helpful to see both of these. You can just see how different bars form just from changing off the sampling of the ticks. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully we get some good price action for the rest of the week, and we'll see y'all on Friday. Thanks. Bye.